How do we compete when there's just too much going on? Right now, all the news about San Francisco is AI this, AI that. And it can be a bit scary, especially if you want to call San Francisco home, you want to stay here, you want to be around. So, how do you compete? And I work in residential real estate, and this is a question my clients come to me with. I help some clients who work in tech or work in AI or AI adjacent. However, there's other clients who are teachers, have traditional jobs, nurses here in the city, fire, police, right? They're competing, and we are able to win, but it comes with a different strategy. The advice is you have to look between the lines. What do I mean about that? Well, if you're living in San Francisco right now, you're probably wanting to stay. You want to be nearby where you currently live, but if you're wanting to buy, that barrier to entry is significantly higher. And that's because even in the best neighborhoods, the best rental spots are also the best ones to buy in. They're kind of our blue chips. And what I find is when I talk with people about San Francisco and the neighborhoods, most people only know maybe 5, 6, 7 properties or 7 neighborhoods. And with that, when they start their search, they're kind of focused on those main ones. But if we don't have Pacific Heights money and we want to stay in San Francisco, our compromise is changing neighborhoods, considering other areas, not moving out of San Francisco. There's a reason why this city draws so many people in from so many different industries. So I want to give you an example of this because when I name a handful of these neighborhoods, they're kind of the same ones people refer to. So here we go. So for instance, here I am on Google Earth. Pac Heights, a lot of people familiar with this. This is definitely one of our blue chip neighborhoods. You see the whole area that it covers, right? And then we go a little north of that, the Marina District. Marina comes down to Richardson and Lombard, cuts all the way over to Van Ness. Very popular neighborhood. It's very walkable, very flat. People can live here, both young and old, and everyone in between. It's quite beautiful. But you might notice, even between those two neighborhood lines, there's a neighborhood in between. That is not necessarily what I mean. Sometimes the neighborhoods nearby are just as expensive, if not more. Cow Hollow is doing great in value. And it's attractive. You have access to both the marina and to Pac Heights and Fillmore, the whole shopping district. Some other neighborhoods, like Inner Richmond, people love to bring up and mention, and that falls right here in between the two parks. Very accessible again. You've got tons of restaurants for about 9 blocks here, where you get the chance to shop and search for whatever food type you want. And some of the best coffee in the city is right near here, in my opinion. There's a lot of good places to get a cup of coffee. Good example of this is also the Mission. Mission's one of our largest neighborhoods. And you can see that here. Well, the lines aren't coming up, but pretty much goes all the way over here to the freeway, down to Cesar Chavez, and then cuts up Guerrero. And then you pop over to the Castro. And the Castro is much smaller than most people know about, but it's really only a handful of blocks immediately right here. Eureka Valley is the more broad area. Then you get up to Corona Heights, and there's a lot of options there. But Noe Valley is also one of the hottest neighborhoods right now. Used to be $2 million just a few years ago. You could get a single family home. Now $5 million is kind of the entry point. 2.5 is your fixer price point. It's pretty wild. But that only fills in this area. That leaves some gaps here. Bernal Heights is another one. But there's a couple areas you have to read between the lines. Have to consider these kind of no-man neighborhoods are lesser known neighborhoods. And that's because you can still get access to everything you want. I've got a new listing. This is what brought this whole thing on. Here on Spruce, it's considered Lone Mountain. That's what this whole little area is. But when I was talking with other agents, giving them a heads up, the duplex is coming live, they weren't really sure where it was. And if realtors themselves don't even know, then that's a value for some buyers. In this case, I'm making sure to highlight it and show it off, because what the real benefits are the ones that I shared with these agents. As I mentioned how close it is to Laurel Village, they were shocked. It's only 2 blocks, and you get Bryan's Market and Calmart, and about 7-8 blocks you can get to inner Richmond. So again, all the access to all those food spots, coffee spots, and there's a lot in between there. But this is where your value is. If you are struggling, you don't have the AI money, you got to start reading between the neighborhoods. Consider these areas that are close to the amenities and the things you enjoy and the things you want, but without needing to spend the full champagne budget. We can get away with some good sparkling wine and still enjoy life while staying in San Francisco. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that because I know some of my buyers are out there struggling and competing in neighborhoods that they just can't keep up with the budgets and the pricing of where it's heading. And so we're having to talk about outskirt neighborhoods. There's also these same neighborhoods and the amenities that come with them. They show up in many other parts of the city. San Francisco is a city that is just hills and valleys. And in those valleys, there's oftentimes the cafes, the restaurants, the bars, all the things that bring community together in between the work days. They're right there. They're nearby. So if you want to talk more about real estate, or if you want me to highlight other neighborhoods, just drop them in the comments. I'll get to them. I love San Francisco. I'm going to keep showing off San Francisco. Yes, AI is coming. Yes, values are going up. But I'm a firm believer that we have a lot of places to live, and we have a lot of space for people who want to be here. So yeah, stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.